Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Locker Room. I'm your host, Brian Tull, and this week I'm going to discuss a little March Madness. So not so much March Madness itself, but some of the star players throughout college basketball that are likely to declare, a lot of the underclassmen are likely to declare this year, and what the prospects may be like. There's been a lot of discussion of how Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker ended their seasons and I guess careers at their respective colleges, and just my take on where I see them being projected in the NBA. And I think what questions that that GMs and presidents of basketball operations have to consider. First thing, let's start with Parker. I think just as everyone else has been noted, he's got a great body, a great physique that's meant for the NBA. I think of all the players that were kind of the underclassmen, the top players, he seems to be the most accomplished as far as having the ability to put the ball in the basket. I can easily see him a 20-point score within a year or two of coming to the league. Maybe he's playing from Milwaukee or Philadelphia. I think right now, preferably, I think if I were him, I would prefer to play in Philadelphia, not only from the standpoint of playing Philly versus Milwaukee, but also from the standpoint of having at least another young player like MCW playing alongside him that I think is more of a distributor than a scorer, even though he has the capability of scoring. And I think they would help each other out to some extent. Hopefully it's not a situation that happened to two other young players they had about a decade or so ago, Iverson and Stackhouse, but hopefully this time around it'll work out better for them and having two wing players. I think as far, and I think the big concern with him, everyone describes a bit of Paul Pierce, some folks describe him as another younger Melo. I do see a lot of the Carmelo Anthony components to him. He's a dynamic scorer. He can go inside, outside. He has a big physique, similar to how Carmelo had. You can see how he can be a very empowering force and a tough force on the inside if you want to use that post-up game, if he expanded on that. The problem, I think, just like which might have been the case with Carmelo, but we didn't see it as it was as noticeable in college because he played for a team that played with a zone, is the fact that his defense, I think, still has a big, huge question mark on it. And some people, say, defense can come, this and that. I don't believe that. I think you have either an instinct to want to play defense or you don't have an instinct to play defense, and you are what you are. I think guys can become better offensive players over time, and guys could become better defensive players over time, but I think in both scenarios, I should say, I think you need to have some type of baseline that, you have the capability of playing defense. And I don't know, that's to me his big question mark. Does he have that mindset that he could want to lock down guys as a franchise player? So that's my big question mark on him. Moving on to Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins, projected at the beginning of the year for a lot of different, publications and scouts as being the number one pick overall coming out this year. I think, in my mind, he's the wild card. A lot of people said Parker probably the number one pick overall. Other folks might have said Wiggins, and there's also a big group that says Embiid from Kansas as well too. And let's put it this way: Wiggins is going. I think it's a fact. In this case, I think Wiggins, Embiid, and Parker are going to be the top three. I don't see that moving anytime from here now. True, you have the workouts, and we'll see what happens in the workouts. But at this moment, I don't see anything changing from that. Even if the two of them had poor tournaments and poor performances during the tournament. Wiggins is a little different than Parker. This is the only thing concerning with Wiggins. There's been this. I've been willing to give him the benefit of the doubt throughout the year about his passiveness throughout the year. Obviously, playing with a lot of great talented players on his team, as has Parker. But at least with Parker, he's like 4 for 14. He didn't have a great shooting game at all, but at least he was looking and willing to shoot and try to take his shots and take over the game if he needed, as he felt he needed to do. It didn't work out that way too well for him, but at least he had that instinct to do so. Wiggins is a bit more of a muddled situation. And is it one of those things where he has the capability, but because he's playing on the type of team he was playing on, he never felt like he should try to dominate the game in that from an offensive standpoint? I don't know if that's the case. I kind of lean to the other camp where I'm not sure if he has that on switch where he's a dude that is going to just take off, say, hey guys, just grab a hold of my cape, and we're going to just go to the promised land. I don't see him as that type of player. More I watch him, I think he has the skill set to be that type of player. I do think, if you have a chance to draft, I would draft him, because I think he would be a pillar on potentially a playoff or a championship type of team. I think you want a guy like that. But the question always comes, is he an alpha dog or not? And I always get nervous when you have guys like that where you're questioning if they're alpha dogs. That's more trouble than it's worth sometimes. So we'll see what happens with him. I think he's going to turn into an outstanding two-way player, because I think not only his offensive abilities are now, he's just scraping the surface on that. I mean, that guy gets anything near a 17-foot jump shot, I think it's all she wrote. His first step's unbelievably quick. His athleticism is fantastic. I'm not sure, if it's like LeBron athleticism or even like Kobe in his early years or anything like that, but it's up there on a high level. I mean, how he could just get up off the ground in like no time. And defensively, I think I think is something that, if I was a GM looking at him, I think is a plus on his ledger versus, say, Parker, where right now I don't think you have to go and worry about teaching him fundamentals with defense, or having to kind of get him going to play defense. He's going to get out there, he's going to go after it. So I think from that standpoint, I think he's one of those guys that can make a lot of guys better really quickly, because I think he shows that he has the ability to make some nice, he's got some nice passing ability. He knows to set up teammates. He's got great instinct for defense, and I think over time, his offense is going to come. So I think, give some time, I think you're going to see yourself a great overall player. Who knows? I mean, could he, I'm not saying he's going to be LeBron or anything like that, but the question comes down to, his ceiling could be as high as a LeBron, or I think he could be as low, depending how it goes. He could be anywhere. He could be Josh Smith. You don't know. He could be Josh Smith or LeBron James. He could be in the middle, Scottie Pippen. But he has that type of ability where he can do a lot of different things, is what I'm saying. So it's going to be fun to see that. Just as far as the other guys go, Embiid, I think, it's still raw. They talk about his footwork's great. I mean, they're comparing it to like Olajuwon's footwork. Well, slow it down here, folks. I mean, it's 1 year. You just learned how to play basketball a couple of years ago. I think, I think you really have to worry about bigs more and more as you draft high up the draft. I mean, you see over the years, bigs really cause pretty much franchises to go in the tank. Portland's probably had the worst case of it than any other team with their players over the years. With Walton obviously being great when he came out of college and in the pros as well too, but the legs, the knees started deteriorating. He just wasn't the player that he was, like in the late 70s. Once the injuries started compiling up. Sam Bowie, same thing. Wasn't the same player out of Kentucky once he had the knee injury. And Greg Oden, as we've seen recently, which I'm glad to see him back on the court. Hey, that's great. I always love to see a comeback story. I hope he, I wish him well. I hope it works out really well with him in Miami. So there's just some examples of some big men in the past. I'm not saying this injury here he's had this year will have any effect on his draft status, but it's just one of those things. We have these nagging injuries. Even Anthony Davis, as great as he's been playing, he's already had a few nicks and scratches here and there, and it's like, you gotta ask yourself, how many times can you go down the well with these big men and have guys that are out for like a third or quarter of the season. So consider that. Randall from Kentucky, I mean, I was impressed with him on Sunday in the Wichita State game. I thought his game wasn't really, his offense wasn't really coming to him, but the aggression he showed as the game got later and later in the game, I thought was impressive. He stepped up the free throw line. Not a great free throw shooter, knocked down a lot of big free throws for Kentucky. So I think he's another guy you gotta look to see. His stock could be moving up if he continues to play this in this tournament. And maybe the top three is not so solidified if Randall continues to play as well as he has been lately for Kentucky. So we'll see. There's some other X factors that we're not sure about. The fellow from Australia, Exum, I believe. So Dante Exum, I believe it is. So we'll see how that works out. Also Smart, right now people have him right now in most mock drafts around. He's just outside the top 5. where he's at the 6th position. We'll see with him how he performed during the year, with, you know, up and down. We know about the situation with the fan and then some tossing the chair, so his attitude is definitely something to be put into question. This is one of the other reasons why I'm always of the mindset, when you have a chance and you're hot, come out, because you never know what might happen. And if Smart had come out the year before, he arguably could have been the #1 pick overall, and now he might be the 6th. He might drop as much as down to 10th, who knows. So I think he's going to be an interesting ongoing story as we get close to the draft. Hey, I look forward to it, but we got a lot of balls still left in the tournament, as well as some pros. So I'll get back to you next week, you know, to discuss some of those topics as well too. So you guys take care, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.